Behind the neon skylines and ancient walls lies a hidden China. A land where deserts swallow forgotten kingdoms and rivers carve through landscapes older than memory. Where mountains shatter the clouds at nearly 5 miles high. Where stone armies guard emperors for 2,000 years and quantum satellites orbit overhead. Here, the world's oldest seismograph and the world's fastest train were born, 5,000 years apart. What if the most incredible places were never meant to be found? This is Unseen China, revealed like never before. Zhangjiajie National Forest Park, the real-life floating mountains. In the mist-veiled heart of southern China, a landscape rises that seems to belong not to Earth, but to another world entirely. Stone pillars, thousands of them, soar from the jungle floor like the fossilized bones of an ancient giant. Some reach over 3,500 feet into the clouds. Each one a narrow spire balanced delicately against time and gravity. This is Zhangjiajie National Forest Park, a place so extraordinary that its surreal forms became the inspiration for the floating mountains in James Cameron's Avatar. Yet, long before cinema found it, nature had been writing its masterpiece here for over 300 million years. Once, this land lay submerged beneath a warm, shallow sea. As tectonic forces lifted the seabed skyward, millennia of relentless erosion carved the landscape into isolated stone towers. Water, ice, and wind stripped away the softer rock, leaving behind these towering sentinels. Each pillar stands as a testament to Earth's patient violence, shaped not by the hands of man, but by the slow, invisible forces of geology and time. Between the cliffs, narrow walkways cling to the rock faces, offering dizzying views into mist-shrouded chasms. Glass bridges stretch across bottomless voids, daring travelers to walk where birds fear to fly. Cable cars can ascend into the swirling clouds, vanishing into a landscape where orientation is lost and only wonder remains. The park covers more than 18,000 acres, and much of it remains dense, wild, and inaccessible, home to rare species found nowhere else on Earth. In every direction, nature has sculpted a labyrinth of vertical wilderness, where ancient pine trees clutch to the narrowest ledges, and waterfalls disappear into unseen depths below. In Zhangjiajie, the boundary between myth and reality dissolves. The earth itself feels untethered here, as if some forgotten magic is still at work beneath the stone. It is a place that humbles the senses, reminding visitors that even in an age of satellites and supercities, there are worlds still ruled by silence, mist, and time. Far to the northeast, beyond these ancient forests, another hidden marvel rises, a volcanic lake perched on the very roof of the world, where legends say dragons still stir beneath the waters. Heaven Lake, the crater lake above the clouds. Near the remote border between China and North Korea, high above the forests and plains, lies a lake so perfectly hidden it seems almost forgotten by time. Resting atop the collapsed cone of Mount Shanghai, Heaven Lake sits at an altitude of over 7,180 feet. Making it the highest volcanic crater lake on Earth. In winter, its surface freezes into a solid mirror. In summer, it gleams like a sapphire set into the mountains. Here, clouds drift below the water's edge and the horizon feels impossibly far away. Heaven Lake was formed over 2 million years ago by a massive volcanic eruption, one of the most powerful in recorded human history. Known as the Millennium Eruption, it reshaped the landscape with an explosion force rivaled only by a handful of events in the last 5,000 years. The eruption created not just the caldera, but also the steep ridgelines and the black volcanic cliffs that still encircle the lake today. The lake itself is steeped in myth. For centuries, local Korean and Chinese legends have spoken of a dragon dwelling in its depths. Even today, sightings of mysterious creatures occasionally surface, blending folklore with the stark isolation of this frozen world. The temperature around Heaven Lake remains harsh year-round, with snowstorms possible even in mid-summer, and the weather can shift from clear skies to blinding fog in minutes. Despite its beauty, few travelers venture here. The journey is long and the altitude demanding, but for those who reach its shores, Heaven Lake offers something rare. The feeling of standing not just above the world, but outside of it. Here, the earth feels raw, elemental, and still forming as if the planet's heart beats just beneath the ice-blue water. Beyond the volcanic peaks, across the desolate sweep of the Gobi Desert, another secret awaits, carved not into stone by nature, but into the cliffs by human hands 1,000 years ago along the forgotten edges of the Silk Road. Mogao Caves, the desert library of lost civilizations. On the barren edge of the Gobi Desert, where endless sands meet an unforgiving sky, lies one of humanity's most extraordinary forgotten treasures. Carved into the cliffs of a lonely riverbank are nearly 500 caves, each a window into a vanished world. This is the Mogao Caves. A 1,000-year archive of faith, culture, and knowledge, hidden in silence for centuries. The first cave was dug in the 4th century AD, when a Buddhist monk, inspired by a vision of golden light, began hollowing a sanctuary into the rock. Over time, pilgrims, scholars, and dynasties followed, expanding the network into a sprawling complex of temples, shrines, and libraries. Inside, every surface is alive with vivid murals, intricate statues, and painted stories stretching from floor to ceiling. Scenes of the Silk Road unfold across the walls, caravans crossing mountains, ancient cities rising from the dust, celestial beings floating above an earth still teeming with the unknown. At its height, the Mogao Caves were a crossroads of the ancient world. Here, Indian, Persian, Tibetan, and Chinese influences merged in brilliant color, blending Buddhism, Taoism, art, and science into a singular tapestry. It was a beacon for travelers carrying silk, spices, and ideas between civilizations, and a place where monks safeguarded the wisdom of an empire. But as trade routes shifted and dynasties fell, the desert slowly reclaimed the land. The caves were sealed, forgotten by the outside world, their secrets preserved in dry silence for nearly a millennium. It wasn't until the early 20th century that explorers stumbled upon a hidden library sealed within one of the caves, a cache of more than 50,000 manuscripts, paintings, and relics, many older than entire nations. Today, the magical caves remain one of the richest sources of ancient art and literature ever discovered. They're a testament to a time when the edges of the known world met here, in a place shaped by devotion, desert winds, and the endless hunger to understand the cosmos. Beyond the desert cliffs, farther west along the ancient trading paths, a different wonder rises. A living canvas of stone, where mountains wear every color of fire and earth. Rainbow Mountains, nature's impossible masterpiece. In the far reaches of the Gansu province, where the winds of the desert meet the foothills of the Kilian Mountains, a landscape emerges that seems almost too vivid to be real. Waves of red, gold, orange, and violet ripple across the stone ridges like a frozen explosion of color. These are the Rainbow Mountains of Zhangjiajie. One of the most surreal natural wonders on Earth. The colors of the Rainbow Mountains are not a trick of light or illusion. They're the result of nearly 24 million years of geological alchemy. Layer upon layer of mineral-rich sandstone deposited by shifting rivers and ancient seas was slowly compressed by tectonic forces and thrust upward into jagged peaks. Over millennia, iron oxide, copper, sulfur, and other minerals stained the rock, painting the hills with bold natural pigments. Every line, every fold in the mountainside tells a story of Earth's slow, relentless transformation. Up close, the landscape becomes even stranger. Entire cliffs blaze crimson under the noon sun. Narrow valleys glow in soft purples and golds as the light fades. In some places, the colors are so sharply divided that the mountains appear almost artificial, as if they have been carved and dyed by an unseen artist. The pattern of colors shifts subtly depending on the season and the hour, turning every visit into a different encounter with the living geology. For centuries, these mountains remained hidden in isolation, known mostly to local farmers and nomads who believed the land was sacred. Even today, despite growing recognition, parts of the range remain untouched, accessible only by rough dirt paths that weave between rainbow cliffs and barren gullies. Standing among the Rainbow Mountains is like stepping into a world where the laws of nature have been rewritten. Here, stone moves with the grace of a painted wave, and color itself seems to breathe. It is a reminder that Earth, left to its own wild forces, can create visions far beyond human imagination. Beyond the painted cliffs, deep in the heart of the Chinese interior, an ancient city awaits, a cradle of empires and philosophies, where the seeds of one of the world's oldest civilizations first took root. Luoyang, cradle of Chinese civilization. At the meeting point of the Low and Yellow rivers, where fertile plains stretch beyond the horizon, rises one of humanity's oldest and most enduring cities, Luoyang. A name whispered through 5 millennia of history, served as the beating heart of ancient China, the birthplace of dynasties, philosophies, and enduring traditions that still shape the world today. First settled over 4,000 years ago, Luoyang became the capital of 13 imperial dynasties, each leaving behind layers of culture and architecture woven into the earth itself. It was here that Confucianism took root as a guiding force for governance and society. Here that Buddhism, carried across the Silk Road from India, blossomed into towering monasteries and vast caves of worship. And here that the first great civil service exams were envisioned, giving rise to the world's earliest meritocracy, an idea that would echo through history across continents. Beneath modern streets lie relics from every era. Forgotten city walls, imperial palaces swallowed by soil, and the remnants of vast marketplaces where traders once bartered silk, jade, and spices. The Longmen grottos, just outside the city, contain over 100,000 Buddhist statues carved into limestone cliffs, silent witnesses to the spiritual fervor that once animated an empire. Luoyang's significance extends beyond its monuments. It was the eastern terminus of the Silk Road, the lifeline that linked China to the farthest corners of the ancient world. Goods, ideas, religions, and technologies passed through its gates, embedding a sense of cosmopolitan into the city's very bones. In Luoyang, the story of China becomes not just a national tale, but a global one. Today, the city lives quietly compared to its past, often overlooked in favor of Beijing or Xi'an. But to walk its ancient pathways is to step into the bloodstream of Chinese civilization itself, a place where the foundations of philosophy, government, art, and faith were laid by stone. Following the currents of history southward, another marvel reveals itself. Not a city, but a river, and an engineering feat so vast it tied an empire together centuries before the first railroads were even imagined. Grand Canal, the lifeline of an ancient empire. Across the vast plains of eastern China, connecting rivers, cities, and centuries, stretches a creation so immense it almost defies comprehension. The Grand Canal, the longest and oldest artificial waterway on Earth, is a river carved by human hands, binding a fractured land into a unified empire, long before modern roads or railways. Begun more than 2,500 years ago, the Grand Canal grew over successive dynasties into a staggering artery of commerce and communication, stretching over 1,000 miles from Beijing to Hangzhou. At its height during the Sui and Tang dynasties, it was the lifeblood of the empire, allowing grain, silk, soldiers, and ideas to move swiftly between the northern political capitals and the rich southern breadbasket of the Yangtze River Basin. Constructed without the benefit of modern machinery, the canal crossed mountains, rivers, and floodplains, employing ingenious feats of engineering, including complex lock systems, terraced waterways, and massive embankments. It was a project that consumed generations of labor, but in return, it secured China's political and economic stability for centuries. The Grand Canal was more than a trade route. It was a culture highway. Along its banks flourished cities, markets, temples, and gardens, many of which still thrive today. It allowed not only goods, but poetry, religion, and innovation to flow freely across the empire, knitting a patchwork of kingdoms into one civilization. Over time, sections of the canal fell into disuse, overtaken by rivers and modern infrastructure. yet vast stretches remain navigable even now, and UNESCO has designated it a World Heritage Site, recognizing it as one of humanity's greatest engineering achievements. The Grand Canal endures as a quiet, living monument, a reminder that the most powerful empires are not always built on conquest, but on connection. Water became the invisible thread that stitched a sprawling land into a unified whole. Beyond the last locks and faded bridges of the canal, the land rises towards the heavens, where another kind of wonder awaits, a mountain whose frozen summit stands as the highest point on Earth, touched only by the fiercest winds and the most ancient prayers. Mount Everest, the silent roof of the world. On the windswept border between China and Nepal rises a place where the earth leaves behind all familiar things. Mount Everest, known in Tibetan as Komalangma, the mother goddess of the world, towers at 29,032 feet, the highest point on the planet. Yet beyond its towering statistics, Everest remains something more profound, a sacred frozen frontier between the human and the infinite. From the Tibetan side, Everest appears not as a sharp, isolated spike, but as a massive, looming presence that swallows the horizon. The northern approach is harsher, colder, and more desolate than its southern face, a raw expanse where ice and stones stretch unbroken for miles. The climb from here is more unforgiving, the air thinner, the winds relentless, with temperatures plunging to deadly lows even in high summer. But for the Tibetan people, Everest is not merely a physical challenge, it is a spiritual one. For centuries, pilgrims have journeyed across the barren plateaus not to conquer the mountain, but to honor it. Prayer flags flutter on rocky outcrops, carrying ancient mantras into the sky. Each gust of wind is said to carry prayers to the heavens, offerings of respect to a force far beyond human control. Even the history of exploration here is stitched with myth and reverence. Early climbers who dared the Tibetan route spoke of spectral figures in the mist and monuments where the sheer scale of the mountain seemed to erase the boundary between dream and waking life. Everest is not merely a summit, it's a place where the limits of endurance, faith, and human ambition are laid bare against the cold indifference of nature. Today, standing at Everest Base Camp on the Tibetan side, visitors are dwarfed not only by the physical mass of the mountain, but by the silence that surrounds it. A silence so complete, so absolute, it feels almost like a conversation with the universe itself, one where the only proper response is awe. Beyond these frozen peaks, far from the ancient monasteries and prayer flags, another frontier stretches skyward, not carved by nature, but by human hands, listening for voices from the stars. FAST Telescope, the sky eye of humanity. In the remote valleys of Guizhou province, cradled by a natural depression in the karst mountains, an immense structure stretches towards the heavens. This is the 500-meter aperture spherical telescope, known simply as FAST, the largest and most sensitive radio telescope ever built. Nicknamed the Sky Eye, it represents humanity's boldest attempt to listen to the universe itself. FAST stretches nearly 1,600 feet across, wider than the Great Pyramid Complex at Gaza, making it the largest and most sensitive instrument of its kind anywhere on Earth. Its vast reflective dish is composed of 4,450 triangular panels, each precisely engineered to catch the faintest whispers from the farthest reaches of the cosmos. Completed in 2016 after nearly 2 decades of planning and construction, it is capable of detecting radio signals from galaxies billions of light years away, and perhaps, one day, something even more extraordinary. Unlike optical telescopes that capture visible light, FAST listens for the invisible, the radio waves emitted by pulsars, black holes, and the ancient echoes of the Big Bang. It maps the Milky Way with unprecedented clarity, tracing the hidden structures of interstellar space and deepening our understanding of the galaxy we call home. It hunts for fast radio bursts, millisecond flashes of energy so powerful and so mysterious that their true origins remain unknown. But it is FAST's role in the search of extraterrestrial life that fires the imagination most. It is sensitive enough to detect faint signals from star systems hundreds of light years away, positioning China at the forefront of the quest to answer one of humanity's oldest and most haunting questions: are we alone? In the silence of Guizhou's remote hills, surrounded by protected radio quiet zones, FAST listens patiently. Day and night, it waits for messages older than civilization itself, traveling across the endless, frozen dark of space. From the edge of the universe, our journey now returns to Earth, to a city unlike any other, where mist rises between skyscrapers and bridges weave between mountains in a living labyrinth of stone, steel, and water. Chongqing, the vertical megacity. At the confluence of the Yangtze and Jilin rivers, shrouded often in mist and rising defiantly from steep mountainsides, stands Chongqing. A city that feels less like a place on Earth and more like the setting of a dream. Home to over 30 million people across its sprawling metropolitan region, Chongqing is the largest city in the world by area. A vertical labyrinth where bridges soar between cliffs and entire neighborhoods cling to hillsides above rushing waters. Unlike the rigid grid layouts of most modern metropolises, Chongqing's geography leaves no room for predictability. Roads coil like serpents around sheer rock faces. Skyscrapers rise from deep river valleys, their bases nearly hidden by fog. Monorails pierce straight through residential towers. Streets stack in layers so densely woven that GPS signals often fail to distinguish one level from another. It is a city built vertically, in defiance of the ground itself. Historically known as the Mountain City, Chongqing has always demanded resilience from its people. During World War II, it served as China's wartime capital, enduring relentless bombing raids with a stubborn endurance that became part of its identity. Today, that same spirit fuels its rapid ascent as a manufacturing powerhouse and innovation hub, all while preserving the chaotic, organic pulses that set it apart from China's polished coastal giants. Beyond the steel and concrete, Chongqing is a city of sensory extremes. Hot, numbing spice defines its cuisine, the birthplace of fiery hot pot that leaves mouths tingling with Sichuan peppercorns. Lanterns glow in ancient alleyways. High-speed ferries cut through river fog at dawn. Life moves vertically here, across cliffs, bridges, stairways, and towers. A constant dance between gravity and ambition. To stand in Chongqing is to witness a city in motion, a place where mountains, rivers, and humans will converge into a force as unstoppable as the Yangtze itself. It is a living monument to the possibilities of urban life in a world increasingly defined by extremes. Beyond the misty towers and neon bridges, another marvel endures. Not a city or a machine, but an ancient system of life-giving water, built by hand over 2,000 years ago and still flowing today. Dujiangyan Irrigation System, the river that obeys. At the foot of the Mim Mountains in Sichuan province, where rivers once raged uncontrollably against the plains, stands one of humanity's oldest and most ingenious feats of engineering. The Dujiangyan irrigation system, begun over 2,200 years ago during the Qin dynasty, a structure so simple in design and so profound in impact that it continues to sustain millions of lives to this day. Before Dujiangyan, the Mim River was a force of destruction. Seasonal floods devastated crops, uprooted villages, and carved chaos into the land. But instead of building a dam which would have blocked the river and risked collapse, the visionary governor Li Bing and his engineers conceived something different, a delicate balance between nature and human need. By splitting the river with a man-made levee shaped like a fish's mouth and channeling its flow through a network of carefully carved channels, they turned a violent floodplain into a fertile cradle. During rainy seasons, excess water was diverted safely. In dry months, irrigation fed the fields. Without cement, modern tools, or machinery, they crafted a living system that still regulates floods and nurtures farmland across the Chengdu Plain. The genius of Dujiangyan lies in its harmony with nature. It does not fight the river, it guides it. Over centuries, its subtle brilliance has allowed generations of farmers to thrive without destroying the very force that sustains them. In an age where engineering often imposes itself aggressively upon the environment, Dujiangyan remains a quiet testament to wisdom, an ancient blueprint for sustainable living. Today, standing beside its still flowing channels and stone sluices, visitors can hear not just the rush of water, but the murmur of history itself. A reminder that the greatest triumphs of civilization are often not walls built against nature, but bridges built with it. As the final currents of the Mim River slip past, so too does our journey through China's unseen worlds. From floating mountains and ancient deserts to quantum telescopes and vertical cities, a vast hidden China emerges, one that even after 5,000 years continues to shape the future while guarding the mysteries of its past. For 5,000 years, China has been writing a story unlike any other, not only with its empires and monuments, but with its rivers, its mountains, its skies, and its dreams. Beneath every stone, behind every wall, beyond every city skyline, another world still lingers. A hidden China that endures in silence and mist, waiting for those willing to see it. Here, ancient oceans become forests of stone. Volcanoes become sapphire lakes among the clouds. Rivers were taught to obey without force. And in the dark, between the stars, telescopes listen for answers older than memory. The real wonder of China is not just what was built or what was discovered. It is the relentless rhythm between destruction and rebirth, between the Earth's wild forces and human imagination. It is a place where the future is built atop the ruins of forgotten kingdoms, and where the most incredible places are still waiting, unseen. If these hidden worlds stirred your sense of wonder, there's still so much more to discover. Beyond every mountain and beneath every river, countless secrets still shape the soul of its ancient land. Subscribe and join us for the next journey as we uncover even deeper mysteries, lost civilizations, and landscapes that seem to defy the imagination. The world is wider, older, and more extraordinary than we've ever been told. This is just the beginning.